Three. Hello, everyone, and welcome to An Englishman, An Irishman, and a Load of Bollocks. This is our podcast. This is Series 2, Episode 3. We're post-Christmas now, just before the advent of 2023 and a new year. So what me and Paul are going to do is we're going to try and have a little look back on 2022, what it meant for us. Any comments on the general continuing and relentless insanity, and also, probably more importantly, we're going to try to look ahead to 2023 with a view to what can we do to making sure that we can have the best year that we can possible and positively impact the world as well. So that's what we're looking at today, isn't it, Paul? How are you? Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope you've had a good one with the family.
Yeah, likewise to yourself, David, to your family. Yeah, it was a good Christmas. I got a jumper on, a woolly jumper. So it's even
Very
though
nice.
after the indulgences of Christmas, it's kind of bet onto me a little bit, but the camera hides it well. Lovely Christmas. It was quiet. Look, everyone says it's quiet. You know when people say I had a quiet Christmas, it's like, well, what do you normally do at Christmas? Dance on tables and go crazy, like during Christmas Day. But it was quiet. I think I was telling you before, we were back to basics. The kids got loads of board games and jigsaws and art stuff of Santa. So they've been, the last few days, kitchen table is full of art, pictures, and half-made jigsaws. So it's lovely. It was lovely. It's as we said, it's a time for the kids, isn't it?
Oh, brilliant, Paul. And that's a talking point straight away, isn't it, really? And I know it's something that you talk about a lot and you're passionate about. Is you talk about the arts and crafts there and the hands-on stuff with the kids. A limit on kind of like technology, really. And this doesn't just apply obviously to children, does it? It applies to all of us, really, about how much we've become disconnected from ourselves in many different, and from each other in many different ways and for many different reasons. But maybe one of those reasons is the impact that technology has, or the impact that we've allowed technology to have on our lives, which is quite ironic. I say that we're using technology to conduct this podcast, but I know that it's something that's important for you with the children to go out, breathe the fresh air, interact with nature, do the arts and crafts, have proper talks and things like that. So just thought to maybe pick up on that, really. And as we go forward, how important do you think those aspects are? Those kind of really wanting to interact with each other, with nature, with our own souls as well.
Yeah, you need to kind of embrace your loved ones, get back to nature, as you say. Don't get too fixed on the alternative scene in terms of scrolling Telegram, scrolling chats on Telegram, because it's a constant loop, isn't it? Of doom and gloom and negativity. And you know that saying of when you're on your phone, you're close to ones that are far away from you that you don't know, and you're far away from the ones that are close to you and that you loved and who love you. So there is a moment in time where you have to stop and maybe a bit of introspection, think, no, I need to get back to basics, have a simple life, go for a walk. Like for instance, during the Christmas, me and Dylan are planning to do, my eldest boy, age 7. See, it goes back to as well. Don't let COVID define us. Don't let climate change. Don't get wrapped up in the climate change scam. Don't get wrapped up into the transgender bollocks. Don't get wrapped into illegal refugees coming into your country. There's grifters there pushing agendas as well, and we get sucked into that, as I said, that vicious circle. So me and Dylan are planning in the new year. We're planning to do it'll be trains, planes, buses and automobiles. We're going to do John O'Groats to Land's End sometime in the new year. And the idea behind that is it's a sense of adventure. It's bonding with my son. It's taking in history. It's taking in 2 countries. It's taking in geography. We're going to take in Edinburgh, 2 capital cities, Edinburgh and London. We're going to take in the Scottish Highlands down to the beautiful countryside down in Cornwall and Devon. That's the plan. And it's also, life is for living. Get out of your house, have real conversations, create real experiences, embrace the moment, embrace life.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant, that, Paul. And I think quite inspiring words, actually. And something else I was going to touch on and ask you about, because I think you've got this down much better than I have. And it comes to I could call it balance. I could call it equilibrium. I could call it psychological and emotional well-being. It's the ability that some seem to have to be able to be aware of the bigger picture. We all know what the bigger picture is, and it's not pretty, and we don't need to go into it in this podcast. Don't need to be aware of every single small detail.
No.
Because what's the point? We don't know which of the small details are real and which aren't, and there's only so much impact and influence that we can have.
Yeah.
The other element of it is, as you said there, living our own lives and giving ourselves permission to enjoy our life. And I think maybe it's that aspect. Personally, for me, I sometimes struggle with. So it feels for me that 2023, the equilibrium has got to. Things are a little bit out of kilter for me. The equilibrium needs to be restored somehow, and it's remembering, I think, that it's okay to be a little bit selfish. It's okay to it's okay to look back and to see all the the really valuable things that we've done in the last couple of years, but also to look forward and say, as you said then, I can enjoy my life. I don't need to pile extra pressure on myself. Because to carry it could become a little bit like not a little bit. It can become a real burden actually. To carry when you know what's going on, and when it's directly impacted on both of us, as it has in terrible ways as well.
Yeah,
it's finding those ways of living that are conducive to kind of emotional well-being, really, to be able to detach, to be able to fend off that creeping sense of isolation that can be quite threatening. Those feelings of anger and resentment. I know a lot of people have gotten that, are natural. Those feelings of isolation and trying to tap into, and I'm talking to myself here, but trying to tap into those feelings of kind of abundance and and connection. So I wanted to ask you, as someone who from the outside, it appears that you're very, very good at that, keeping things compartmentalized. How do you do that, basically?
Yeah, well, it definitely, as I said, I've got 4 kids, as I said, that keep me grounded, that bring me back down to reality, and I have responsibilities as well. I think there's 3 aspects to that. I'll answer it kind of 3 parts, Dave, because it's, again, warts and all, I'm not perfect, and I've had my moments of darkness as well, really, and sometimes you have to dance with the devil to see the light. One aspect is that I have come to the conclusion that not to get fixated on justice will be served to these bastards. Not to feel that vengeance will happen, because I'll be straight up with you that there's been no rest. The WEF are still there. The main players are still there. The WHO, Tedros is still doing his thing. Mike Ryan, the Irish moron. Macron has got re-elected. Jacinta Ardern is still there. Varadkar is now in Ireland. Even we had hope for the Italian Prime Minister Meloni, and look what she did there yesterday. She was saying that Chinese passengers coming into Italy need to show vaccine passports. So again, she showed her true colours. So don't hold out that justice will be served. So my attitude to that is that I believe in the process of the world will figure these things out. It's bigger than us. It's much bigger than us. So don't preoccupy your time waiting for justice, because you could be waiting a long time. Karma, or the sense of, if you believe in the next life, they'll meet their maker, and they have to face that. The next thing is, for me, is to remain humble. I think just again, that sense of just keeping your feet on the ground, of remain humble in the sense of I hear people on the alternative scene, and I feel uncomfortable when they say it, Dave. We're legends, we're heroes, we're rebels. I feel a bit uncomfortable with that. It's a bit grandiose, and I just think, no, we're not any of those things. Again, just remain grounded. All we did in the last 2-3 years, Dave, what you did and what I did, is we held on to our sanity, which was very important. We held on to our sense of individualism. That never, the last 2-3 years, I've held on to that. As hard as it was, I've held on to the sense of self. I know you're reading Matthias Desmond's book. We didn't get sucked into the mass hypnosis. and also I held on to my sense of my spiritual self. So between between those three, it's kept me stable.
Wow.
Another thing is responsibility. You know that song. It's a famous song from a band. I think they were a really classic Woodstock band. They were actually called a band called The Band, and they had a song called The Weight. And the song is basically about the weight that's on your shoulders, the pressure that's on your shoulders. And the song is about not taking on too much responsibility, not taking on life's problems.
Mm-hmm.
That, as I said, this is much bigger than us. And I've kind of soon discovered that I can only do my little bit.
Yeah.
Either be through not wearing a mask, not getting the black magic potion, as we said, the armful of the harmful, or doing a bit of writing, or doing a few conversations with you online.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do, So it's just having, it's like that, the Gambler's song. Know when to hold and know when to fold.
Brilliant, Paul. For people listening to this, I honestly do think that 5 minutes there of what you said would have been of so much incredible value. Practical ways of looking at where we are, why we are where we are, and what we can do now. Because, as you quite rightly said there, well, with this started 3 years ago. We are in, we are in a war. There's no doubt about it. But what war? I often have to say this to myself. What war was ever won by fighting for 24 hours a day, every single day? Well, I'll tell you what war. No war at all. For me, the resistance and the non-compliance. There was actually elements of that I did enjoy. Being a little bit of a dissident at the start, and then being part of developing almost like a bit of a siege mentality in the thick of it, actually, and just saying, no, we will not budge. No, we will not budge. And no, we didn't budge. And, as Thomas Sheridan often says, what we had, we held. But we can't carry on in that defensive mindset forever. And I'm aware of that myself now. There's other things that are going on for me at the moment, actually, which are frustrating me and contributing to a little bit of a sense of isolation, which is primarily I can't go to my job and I'm recovering from the knee surgery. So fingers crossed, because I'm going a bit stir crazy, because I need to get out into nature. I need to get out there into the fresh air. I need to be able to interact with people. So the two, if I'm going to offer some advice to people, which I'm not, because I'm not here to provide advice, but the two most important, incredibly important things that we need to bear in mind are movements, whatever we want to call it. Is number one is connection. So that for me right now, it's reconnecting with nature is a prime concern for me, which I'm struggling to do with with the knee at the moment, but hopefully within a few weeks I'll be able to do that. So connection to all things, really prioritizing connections to other people. For example, I love talking to you, Paul. I love doing these podcasts. Other people who don't think the same as us, but who value the second thing that I want to talk about, which is conversation. Now, I'm so passionate about this. Conversation for me is the bedrock of society. It underpins a society. If you have a society that is confident in conversing, that wants to converse, that wants to explore different avenues of conversation and debate, you've got a healthy society there. You've got a society that's wanting to solve its problems. You've got a society that wants to creatively evolve. If you've got a society where conversation is dying off, you've got a society that's the opposite there, where people aren't confident, or they don't want to, or they don't even value or appreciate or even really know what conversation is. And if you've got a society, and this is the danger, although I don't think we will get to this point, because of the kind of like the moral and intellectual rebirth that we talk a lot about. But if you end up with a society where there's no conversation, so you talk about East Germany in the 1970s and 80s, you talk about Stalinist Russia, then you're doomed. Then if you've got a conversation, then truth completely disappears out of that society. and without truth, you can have nothing else. So this is why I'm so passionate myself about connection
Yeah,
with each
you're
other,
right.
to nature, to ourselves,
The craft of
building community.
conversation.
But conversation is the bedrock.
Yeah,
It is the
yeah,
absolute
yeah,
crucial element.
yeah. And
And I still don't see enough of it.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
see broad conversation, like in terms of the meta narratives that we're subjected
yeah,
to. That's all propaganda. And that doesn't matter. But
yeah,
in and around me, I don't see enough
yeah.
good, honest
Conversation.
conversation, and
Yeah,
it needs to be had, because we've got a lot of problems, Paul, in our
100%.
world, and they need to be solved,
Yeah.
and that starts with conversation. So to anybody listening, I mean, do let us know in the comments this as well, what you think about what Paul said and what you think about what I've said. But what do you make of my kind of observation there, Paul?
100%. The craft of conversation. We need to trash things out in an
Yeah,
open and honest way. We really, really do. You know, warts and all, and we have to look at our warts and all. You know, we need to take
absolutely.
ownership as well of our conversations. And again, there's no sense of confirmation bias. You know, I'm patting you in the back, you're patting me in the back. It's okay to disagree as well. Just one last thing as well about you
Yeah.
were talking about being grounded. The, the sense of don't get too overwhelmed. I see people who are guys who are still overwhelmed and they're living in a life of what if hypothetical worries. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thinking, live, problem solve. You know, the way again, I problem solve everything in my life now, not in a kind of a constructed robotic way, but my attitude is just say they brought back masks in the morning or they pushed the slave passports again. My problem solving reaction to that is I'll just do what I did the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Climate hike up the energy price again. My problem solving to that is I'll get turf. If they bring in that transgender bollocks into school, I'll just contact the school. Basically, what I'm saying is be active with the worries. Don't let it overwhelm you. Just
Mm-hmm.
react and then move on. You
Yeah.
know, and I think
Yeah.
that's important as well. Just don't, rather than letting the worries suck you in and you have endless nights and you're like, what will I do? What will I do? I see people on Telegram and they're all in this loop, as I said, of,
Yeah.
oh, this might happen and that might happen. Well, it hasn't happened. So again, live in the here and the now. It's all about the here and the now. Enjoy this moment right now. You know, we can't control what if hypothetical worlds. So yeah, there's a lot to be. And I go again, people listening here, we're not all California happy clappy, you
No.
know, bongo drums, but we
Yeah.
have to be. You have to move on as well.
Yeah.
You have to. We've no choice. Life goes on.
Yeah, good words, Paul. Yeah, it's interesting. We talked a lot about, haven't we? I never know. We never know what to term or how to describe whatever movement we think we're in, even if we are in a movement, which
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it, the awakening,
indirectly.
exactly, the awakening community or whatever it is. I don't know. We never know what to say. But notice that as well, and we've spoken a lot about this: the doom and the gloom, the never-ending narratives of fear, never-ending worst-case scenarios. For me,
Yeah,
I got my head around
completely.
all that quite a long time ago, 2 years ago. I'd got my head around that when we talked at the start about the bigger picture and about the overarching umbrella of problems. That doesn't bother me at all. It really
Yeah,
doesn't, because for the reasons that you've said there, you know, if a psychopath orders me to do something I don't want to do, I'll simply ignore it. That doesn't bother me. The 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 angle for me, and the what's really bothered me, is how I've seen society affected at the friendship level and at the family level,
yeah,
you know, at the interpersonal level. And I have,
yeah,
first of all, with regard to when we were deep in the mire with the slave passports and all the rest of it, particularly bad in Ireland. But now it's a case of I've seen relationships have been damaged, you see,
yeah,
including some of my relationships. And I think a lot of people, to varying degrees, have also experienced this as well: relationship breakdown or relationships being affected. Now, my theory on it is it comes back again to some appreciation of truth. Uh,
yeah,
I want to have a conversation, but there is
yeah,
something else that I need to bring in now as well. And you mentioned the word, and it's introspection as well,
yeah,
and it's realizing, isn't it, about, okay, let's, to use a cliche, let's just take a little objective step back here and think, right, okay, how can I try and create a different energy around me? How can I try and create a different energy
yeah,
around my relationships? How can I try to imbue what I am saying and doing with
yeah,
a sense, maybe more a sense of I don't know, a sense of just a different way of doing things to try to cajole, to try to nurture these relationships. And if that can't be done, making peace with, okay, as you said, then life's too short. Sometimes,
It isn't.
go on after you.
Oh,
After
sorry.
you.
Go on.
No, I was
No,
just
sorry.
going to
Go on,
say,
Dave.
sometimes a relationship will wither and die, and that's just the way it is. And to allow space for something new to grow. These are really, really, really
Yeah.
big kind of phenomena that I'm talking about here. But I just wanted to say about introspection and
And
self-awareness built into
we,
all that as well.
you talked about energy there. Good energy. You can feel good energy off people is uplifting.
Yeah.
And also on the flip side, bad energy. Do you ever be amongst people or just a single person? And bad energy is toxic.
Mhm.
But you mentioned about truth there, and we could even add to that is the idea of values and principles. That in the last 2-3 years, Dave, in actual fact, on reflection now, I'm just thinking now, I actually haven't changed as a person. I'm still the Paul Bennett that I was prior to COVID. I actually haven't budged. I haven't changed who I am who I am as a person. I've been true to myself the last 2-3 years. I've been true. I've tried to uphold my own core values and principles. Hence the reason I was able to make informed decision with COVID and the jabs and masks, all because I was sticking to my core beliefs, my values and principles. So I haven't really changed. But the saddening thing is that people around us, people close to us, people in our community and in our country, they've changed.
Yeah.
They've dropped their core values, beliefs, and principles. People who I thought were principled, Dave, people who I thought were brave, people who I thought were courageous, who were intelligent, who were sharp, accepted what daddy government said, embraced it, again, without any critical thinking or without any introspection or without any look of, well, what do they think themselves? It's like that scene, that scene in A Few Good Men, Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
Exactly.
They can't go there.
And what
So
dangers would that? Sorry, Paul. I was going to ask what dangers. I'll come back to the positive angle in a minute. But you were talking about, quite rightly, there's the majority of people in society at the moment, they can't handle the truth because they're not talking about what's happened in the last 2-3 years. Despite wholesale buying into the narrative and all of its associated beliefs, warped beliefs and behaviours. So that was bad in itself. Now they know they've been lied to. There's no conversation, which is worse. This is something that's I'm trying to figure out in my head. So what before we go on to the back to the positivity, or just objectively, where does that place us as a society that we've got that so many people at the moment who can't simply acknowledge what's happened and the fact that it was built upon a web of deceitful and malignant lies? I just wanted to get your opinion on that, Paul, if that's okay.
Like, I know you're reading, because you shared it on your Telegram group. You're reading Matthias Desmet, University of Ghent, his wonderful book. And I understand, and that's as old as age, isn't it? That's been Gustave Le Bon, Edward Bernays. They've been talking about this. The techniques of, you instruct chaos and confusion on a society, and that leads to free floating anxiety. It leads to a narrowed form of reality. It leads to people get fixed on the virus. They get fixed on the experts, and they disregard data and experts. And I think, yes, many people were under the spell of COVID. And to be fair to Matthias Desmet, he does say that not everyone was under the spell, but a majority were. I get that. I get the conditions they use. This, as I said, it's as old as time. But that's letting people off the hook as well, Dave. Ultimately, and I'm going to cut straight to the point here. Ultimately, what we've seen in the last 2-3 years is most people are bloody spineless cowards. That's what it was all about. Because we didn't get wrapped up under the spell, did we? We just stood firm. We held firm. People were afraid to speak out. Were afraid to stand out. And that's still there. I know in the morning, if the government instructed masks again in shops and supermarkets, I know for a fact you'd see at least a quick 50 to 60% because they have to, because daddy government has told them. But again, that's me, that's negative energy from me. I just kick on. Let them. It's survival of the fittest at this stage. It's survival of the soul at this stage. And my soul, wherever a soul means, but I know in my heart and soul what it is, it's intact, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's always refreshing for me to talk to you, Paul, because you provide such interesting insights really into what are huge psychological, emotional, and spiritual challenges of our age. And we just want to say again, it's the challenges aren't just for me, and I know you'd say the same as well. Kind of adapting and trying to thrive to what is a pretty sick society, sick in mind, body, and spirit, but also the challenge of growing as a person and not allowing ourselves to become embittered and not allowing ourselves to become drawn into the negative energy. And I'm saying this because this podcast, if nothing else, is about us being authentically communicating how we're feeling at a particular moment in time and hoping that people resonate. I'm saying that for myself, really, because I know that's an ever-present danger and I understand the reasons for it. But also something that's just clicked in my mind there is probably the strength needed to resist the temptation to be able to fall into that negative energy. Probably the strength of character needed to resist that is a challenge in itself. So it's an opportunity really for those of us, any of you listening or watching this on YouTube who are identifying with what I'm saying at the moment. It's a challenge for us to be able to dig deep and to find new layers of emotional awareness in ourselves, new depths of strength of character, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah. And it's what's that famous quote? And it's probably a good time now that we're going into the new year and it is winter. Winter is the summer of the soul, you know. And it's a good time to kind of just think about where you are in your life and kicking on into the new year. But I know we have a few minutes left, so we'll talk about maybe reflections on the year, will we, Dave? And maybe positive aspects of the year. I'll be honest with you. I was thinking about the last year, and we could again be doom merchants here. But Dave, there's been some monumental events in the past year that's given me hope, that's inspired me. And of course, the media didn't cover them. The idea that fighting back is the new normal now. The brave Canadian truckers, the truckers convoy in Ottawa, I mean, they were wonderful. They rattled the Trudeau regime. He tried to freeze their assets. He arrested some of the leaders, but they kept going. That was like their 1916 moment when the lads in 1916 occupied the GPO. That was Canada's moment. They occupied Ottawa with the trucks. Absolutely amazing, and they're still there. They're going strong. Another good thing that it was wonderful throughout the year was the Dutch farmers standing up against the green agenda and the government overreach. Absolutely amazing. Like literally their livelihoods is being crushed with trying to cut. I think they're trying to cut that Mark Rutte, again a globalist, WF globalist leader, trying to cut 50% nitrogen emissions to cull the herd. No, who would ever thought the laid back, smoking pot Dutch farmers would be the ones to fight back? And do you know what was really? It's typically Irish that they're proposing the same nitrogen emissions for Irish farmers, and Irish farmers don't do anything. I mean, is it worth it, lads, for Eamon Ryan and for Roger Gorman? Another thing, just when I'm talking about events, which was Brazil, Bolsonaro, the people coming out in support of Bolsonaro. And I think he was one of the better world leaders, Bolsonaro in Brazil. There was clearly election fraud, but the people are fed up of election fraud. They're fed up of corruption and lies. Again, they're standing with him. The same in Pakistan, Imran Khan. The Americans did a number on him. They ousted Imran Khan, who I think is he's a good man, I think, in Pakistan. Again, they got rid of him. And then in Ireland, it ended up a positive. Enoch Burke, an Irish school teacher, refused to call a child they, them, those pronouns, in a school. He was suspended. There was back and forth between the school. He ended up in court. Subsequently, he ended up in jail because he wouldn't purge his contempt of court. He held firm and he stayed strong. He was in prison for 3 months. because he is a man of conviction. He has religious beliefs, and they released him there, quietly released him. He is like a modern day version of St. Thomas More, a man for all seasons. So
Amazing.
there is inspirational moments out there that we need to hold on to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Paul. Totally agree. And first of all, let's say it. Going back to the start of the year, do you remember the Novak Djokovic saga? Again, another, another person, another individual that we can look at and say truly driven by, by values there, and he held firm. I think something else from the year that stuck out was I thought it was really kind of Russia and Ukraine to suspend hostilities for 2 weeks when Queen Elizabeth II died. So that was great, wasn't it? But
And the Russians ended COVID as well, didn't they, for a
oh,
while?
the Russians ended COVID overnight as well, click of a finger. But in all seriousness, though, what you were talking about essentially was about revolution, I think. That old saying, the revolution will not be televised, how apt that is. And it's important as well I talk about this in my book, how we're living through a media, political, social, health, and AI revolution all at the same time. It's important to note with revolutions that it's not always, sometimes it can conjure up images of decapitated heads and blood spewing down the gutters in the street. Well, revolutions are processes. They're not events. They take place some revolutions over a number of years. And I believe we are living in revolutionary times now, as evidenced by the examples that you've just given there. Now, the key question has always been, will this revolution spill over into violence? And the optimistic, the optimistic take from this is so far, no, it hasn't. And people are taking back their freedoms. People are saying no in greater and greater and greater numbers. And that's happening on an individual level. And it's also happening through organized movements, as you say there, such as the protests in across the world, the Canadian
and a good protest,
and the Dutch farmers. Good protests.
a good protest causes disruption. There was no violence, but it caused disruption. There was financial ramifications. I had to laugh though during the truckers' convoy in Ottawa, and that was early in the year as well. Again, the media didn't cover it, but when the media did cover it, they were doing the lazy. It's lazy now, lads. At this stage, the far right.
Oh, of course,
but a lot of the truckers, I never knew this until recently. There's 100,000 truckers that come from the Sikh community, and a lot of them were involved in the truckers' protest. So imagine calling Sikh, who are the most peaceful people you'll ever meet, calling them far right. I mean, it's clown world at this stage. But I think, Dave, going into the new year, I don't get into the ins and outs with people anymore. I just throw in a little question I asked the question of that do people that basically, how many people do you know that didn't get any jobs regret not getting a job at all? So people like me and you, I would say zero. So then the follow-up question is, how many people do you know that got one job, 2, 3, or 4 for various different reasons? How many of them regret getting any jobs at all? You'll always have someone say, "Oh, my father regrets getting it," or "I regret getting it." It's endless, isn't it? Isn't that just? It's the answer is there, really, isn't it?
The answer is there. The answer is there. It's most basic, and that's stripping it down to the most basic point, which is what we need to continue to do when we do, when we do see an opportunity to wake up another person. Although those who haven't woken up now aren't going to, and we don't need them, do we? As you say, Paul, let them be. Let them be. Let's reflect on the amazing things that have happened, and I think I honestly do believe, Paul, that you are a very, very good kind of like example of how to thrive in an age of such insanity and such division and chaos and mass psychosis. You seem to have it really, really kind of like nailed on. Really, it's really good for me to be able to draw some inspiration from you, and I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast will as well. To keep doing what you're doing is what I'm saying.
Dave,
is what I want to say to you.
You must be proud though that you got your book out in 2022. So it wasn't all bad,
Yeah, I got the book out. Yeah, that was good. I've got plans for a second one as well, actually. So I might talk about that on another podcast. But, Yeah.
And we've got our podcast going, and
Yeah.
there's no one stopping us having these conversations.
No
And
one's stopping us. And we've got some great guests coming up, haven't we? So it's all to look forward to, isn't it?
yeah, we've got a few people lined up from all walks of life. So
Yeah.
yeah, and hopefully people are enjoying it. As I said, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and that's not being understated as well. We're having serious conversations, but as I said, we're trying to be as off the cuff as possible.
That's it. That's what we'll continue to do. So we'll be back less than a minute to go, Paul. We'll be back within the next few days, either with a guest or just me and you shooting the breeze in. But we think we've got a guest, don't we, lined up for the next
Yeah,
one?
we've definitely three confirmed in the next week or two. So
Okay.
we'll play it by ear. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks
So
again, Paul.
have a lovely New Year, Dave.
Yeah, and yourself. Happy New Year to you and all the family. And let's make it a good one. We will do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's kick on. Keep on trucking, as the truckers say.
Keep on trucking. Yeah. Keep on
Yeah.
trucking. All right. Great stuff. I will speak to you soon then, Paul. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah. God bless.